This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic. What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is June 26, 2023. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by the co-host, Luke Sylvia. Luke, what is going on, man? How are you?
Good. At this point, man, we're just off-season, just for whatever reason, it's going by a little bit quicker for me this time around than last year, it felt like. And with that being said, we're not far away from Summer League. And the ball just kind of continues rolling. It's crazy. It feels like it's going this quickly.
Yeah, we had the Summer League schedule come out yesterday, as well as some other news, which we'll get to in just a moment. Let me see if I can't pull up that Summer League schedule here. So the Summer League schedule, the Magic, their first game is going to be July 8th, which is going to be versus Detroit. That game is going to be on ESPN at 5:30 Eastern Time. It'll be Anthony Black and Jet Howard's Summer League debut. From everything that we heard from the press conferences the other day with Anthony Black and Jet Howard, it does sound like Jet Howard's ankle is healthy enough for him to play in Summer League, so I expect both of those guys to play in Summer League. Then on July 10th, Orlando versus Indiana on NBA TV. That'll be 8:30 Eastern Time. Then July 12th, Orlando versus New York. That'll be on ESPN2 at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And then the last scheduled Summer League game for now is going to be on the 13th. So they'll have a back-to-back Orlando versus Portland on ESPN2. That'll be 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And then depending on the Magic's record and the record of all the other Las Vegas Summer League teams, that will dictate the Summer League tournament games, and all of that will be announced at a later date. So mark in your calendar, July 8th, 10th, 12th, 13th.
I'm a little disappointed that you said we play the Blazers last. Did we put them back-to-back, you said, or no?
Yeah.
So I'm a little disappointed it's not the first couple games. I would have loved to see the Magic play against Scoot. I'm going to assume Scoot kind of goes the Paolo route and plays just a couple games. And I fear that we're going to miss out on seeing a Scoot appearance. So a little irritating, and that'd be really my only takeaway. Obviously, the Pacers, you're going to get your looks there with the Pacers, who obviously got Jarris Walker. They got like 4 draft picks, so they're going to have a lot of guys out there. So that'll be something to look for as well. They got Isaiah Wong from the University of Miami, who's a good guard who can fill it up, who could be a Summer League problem, I think. So it'll be a fun game against Indiana. But yeah, my only negative here is that we don't get to see Portland sooner.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many games like even Anthony Black and Jet Howard play. So Paolo was, what was it, 2? I think was all that we saw out of Paolo.
Yeah.
Who knows? I feel like I seem to remember guys used to play like all of Summer League, but that doesn't really seem to be a thing anymore, especially with the size of the Summer League rosters. Like when we had the Orlando Summer League, we had 2 Orlando teams. Man, so really like being able to get a look at a ton of prospects wasn't a huge idea, but yeah, so that's going to be the 8th. So we've got basically like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days until Summer League from the time that you guys are listening to this, if you're listening to it on Monday. So very much looking forward to that. Wanted to just remind you guys really quickly, if you hadn't seen the video already, we released our first episode of what we're calling the Sixth Fan Show. It was really just too easy, with the name already, so we decided to go with that. But basically what that's going to be is our boy Ben is going to be outside of select home games this year, interviewing fans before games. More than likely, it's going to be after games, getting your reactions to the games, whether it's a big win, whether it's a crushing loss. We wanted to figure out a way of how can we get the fan base more involved in the content that we're creating. And this is a fantastic idea. We're really excited about it. You mostly see it done for like English Premier League teams. So it's very much like a soccer thing, but we're trying to bring it to basketball and just a way to rile the fans up, get everybody super pumped up about the team, if you're excited after a win, you can come and give your takes. If you're pissed off after a loss, you can come and give your takes. You want say somebody should be traded or whatever comes to mind. This is going to be your guys' outlet to come and do that. So I think we're going to shoot for 20 games this first year that we're doing this. And as the schedule comes out, Luke, that's when we're all going to sit down and say, all right, these are the games that we're going to do. And then, of course, we'll let you guys know when that's going to be so you can know when to look for Ben outside of Amway after these games.
There is one NBA team that gets coverage like this, kind of like a man on the street way perspective.
That's a little bit of a different breed. Yeah.
And we're obviously talking about Bing Bong, the New York Knicks. And I don't remember the outlet. I know they have like a microphone for their logo.
Side Talk?
Side, something like that, right? Yeah, that sounds right. Something close to that. So yeah, we're obviously, you guys aren't as crazy as Knicks fans because we would love for you guys to be, by the way. Like, as much as you guys want to feel after games and be in your feels, whether it be positive or negative, feel free. The fans will love it, right? Listeners will love it. Some of them will probably resonate with it. And it's great content. So and at the end of the day, we're trying to do that. We're trying to bring you guys great content. So we would love for you guys to be just juiced up after every Magic game that we're out there and doing those. And hopefully it instills a little bit more passionate Magic fans too, right? They're seeing some people being pretty passionate on our 6-fan videos, and they're thinking maybe I should start feeling this way about this team. Maybe I should be as invested as that guy, or maybe not. But we hope you guys enjoy it. Ben did a great job out there doing those and conducting that, and even had a fan take a mic from him, which was
it's rule number 1. Ben's learning, but that is rule number 1. You might not get it back.
On our watch, we would like to not have mic takes anymore, but we're here for the content as well, so we let it slide that time and put it in the video, obviously. But yeah, I really hope that you guys buy into it. Plan to be out there and talk to Ben, at least just say what's up, even if you don't want to be in the video. It means a lot. Just any type of support we can get from you guys.
Yeah, we're hoping this will be like a more regular version of like the Knicks Side Talk, because they'll release like 1 or maybe 2 a year, or an extra one if they go to the playoffs. We're hoping to have one of these like every couple of weeks. So really looking forward to that. So be on the lookout. Follow us on all the social media channels, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Obviously, we'll be talking about it here on the pod. Once the schedule comes out, we have a better idea of what games Ben is going to be at. But make sure you just come out and bring your passion, bring your hot takes, find Ben, and we'll see you on the next episode of the 6-Fan Show. So looking forward to that. In other news, in FIBA-related news, pretty, I don't want to say shocking, but surprising, definitely, because it seemed like this player was going to sit out this FIBA World Cup altogether. But yesterday, Shams Charania reported that Paolo Banchero has agreed to play for Team USA this summer for the FIBA World Cup. So he is joining Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr., Cam Johnson, Walker Kessler, Bobby Portis, and Austin Reeves as the current Team USA roster for the 2023 FIBA World Cup. There is one spot remaining for them to get to the 12-man roster. Not playing for Italy, Luke. What was your reaction to the announcement of Paolo playing for Team USA?
We've talked about it, right? Like, we've both have shared the sentiment that we would have liked to see him play for Italy. And really the sole reason being, we would have loved to see him be the guy. Now, don't get me wrong, on this team, it's not like LeBron, KD, Steph, like those guys aren't coming out right now. So there still could be games where Paolo is able to show out. I think that definitely shouldn't be overlooked. There's games that can be exciting and all of that. Now, kind of the argument that I had been hearing for people who wanted him to be Team USA, Kevin Tucker, producer Kevin being one of those people, really saying, you look at how it's able to kind of launch pad someone's career, being around all those guys, learning, working, playing on the international stage, and just gaining really confidence too. Franz Wagner at the beginning of last year was a little shaky after playing, and representing Germany. But, you could probably attribute the way that he kind of stepped up after that and got his legs back under him, attribute that to maybe playing internationally and the step that he took last year. The one thing, as much as that is incredible, obviously, the one thing that I'm thinking I'm valuing here with Paolo being on Team USA, he's building connections. As the Magic get better, as the Magic get better, he's going to be able. There's going to be guys that are like, man, I like this Paolo guy. We play him a couple times a year. He's a good player. He's young. He's whatever. The Magic are winning games now, and now I'm kind of shoulder to shoulder with Paolo Banchero, telling me all these things, especially on these teams where there's not really a true superstar really there, right? As of now, for the FIBA appearance, you got some guys on that team that you wouldn't mind the Magic taking a look at down the road. Why not? Right? They got options. They got decisions to make. Paolo's pretty locked in with the Magic, as we've seen. He's on a rookie deal. He's only got, he's got a few years left still on that. So there's some guys that have decisions coming up about the Magic. And, maybe some Austin Reeves action, some other guys like that. But I think that creates a lot of good opportunities for the Magic, too, by Paolo doing this.
I tweeted, shortly after the news came out, that Paolo was joining Team USA, and I said, Rookie of the Year check, gold medal for Paolo is on the way. And I got like not a ton, but a little bit of pushback from some people. Like, wow, that's pretty crazy to just say gold medal. Like, first of all, folks, we're just hyping. Like that is my job. I'm hyping Paolo Banchero. But when you look just around the world at the FIBA teams, the Team USA, every single international competition always has the most talent on their roster. Now, other teams like Spain and France who play together for years and years and years, and each international competition, the U.S. just tries to kind of like throw a team of really good players together and see how they mesh. But I like the roster that they're building. I mean, you've got guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., Walker Kessler in the middle there to anchor the defense. You've got great point guards. You've got Jalen Brunson. You've got Tyrese Halliburton. And then you've got guys who are just flat out shooters, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. You've got Bobby Portis, who's going to add a little bit of an edge. You've got Austin Reeves, who is a bucket. Got Brandon Ingram, Anthony Edwards, also buckets. And you got Paolo Banchero, who can kind of do it all. Like, I think this is a pretty complimentary roster that they're building so far. So, yeah, every international competition that Team USA goes into, you're expecting to come home with the gold. Luke, usually you don't care about Team USA.
I don't.
Paolo being on Team USA, does that change that at all?
I care about Paolo, right? So, like, to be quite honest, if Paolo was playing for Italy and went up against Team USA, I'm sure I'd be met with a lot of boos from this, but I'd be cheering for Team Italy. I just don't care about Team USA. Like, aside from like the business point, perspective that I just kind of brought in as terms of him networking, whatever. I just don't care. It's really funny though. Like, I don't know why I'm this way. Maybe it's just because of the past dominance of Team USA in basketball. But like, if Team USA is doing curling, I'm like my shirt's off and I'm doing USA chants for them to beat whoever it is they're going up against. Team USA is just kind of a foregone conclusion that, yeah, they're going to be incredible and they're going to win the gold and whatever. Maybe as other countries become a little bit more talented, then they present more challenges for Team USA, and it's not an upset when they don't win gold. They win silver instead or bronze or whatever. Then I'll care some more. So we'll see. Obviously, Paolo gets me invested in Team USA coming in upcoming FIBA. So hopefully that continues, that he just is on it for his whole career. Always does it, doesn't become too cool for it. I would love to see him just continue to do that, because that is the one thing we're kind of missing now is, guys have become, I don't know if it's too cold, but maybe just preserving themselves from injury, things like that, which I get, but it's still more fun, especially when they're this young as Paolo.
Yeah, Paolo, Franz, Germany versus Team USA in the FIBA Cup final, the FIBA World Cup final is going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to that. And people are going to be, I can't believe you're just assuming that Germany and Team USA are going to be in the final. What about France? Look, a lot of great teams. We're over here hyping the Magic right now. Sit down, touch grass. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. One other thing that I wanted to touch on here before we talk more about the draft and kind of, roughly 72 hours since then, where we sit now. But I posted a graphic that our wonderful Hannah, our graphic designer, made of Anthony Black and Jet Howard to kind of welcome them to Orlando. And I'm sitting here, I'm just freestyling, like what sick caption can I give this? And I dropped a bar. I can't even lie. I said, about to hop on a jet, get it, Jet Howard, to Orlando, because they're coming to Orlando, and conjure up some black, Anthony Black magic, obviously because of the magic. So about to hop on a jet to Orlando and conjure up some black magic, right? And I had the sick little emojis in there. Like the tweet was a banger, like quite obviously. But what I did not expect from this was like multiple independent comments. And I wasn't trying to give Anthony Black a nickname by any means, but there were like a handful of people that were like, oh, wow, black magic. Like, I really like that for Anthony Black. And I was like, okay. And then there was like a few more. And then I'm like, all right, let's see how people would feel about this, because like we had an awesome nickname in the Human Torch, Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross is no longer gone. So like me, I'm just kind of feeling this nickname void in my heart. So I'm like, let's see if we can give this kid a nickname. So I tweeted out, I said, how many people like are you guys feeling the like Anthony Black nickname? The Black Magic nickname for Anthony Black. And we had 695 votes on this poll. 70.5% said yeah. That was a lot more than I had anticipated. And I don't know, it's just kind of cool. Like I can picture David Steele saying it like, oh, that was some black magic. Like if he makes a sick pass or, put somebody on the floor or something like that. I'm just playing that in my mind. So if that becomes a thing, I just want, look, I'm doing the Windhorse fingers right now. If this becomes a thing, remember it was your boy. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's cool. And there were some people that kind of drew more, explained it further for the people that were saying no, right? I saw someone comment into saying like his hair kind of like mad scientist looking can kind of correlate to the black magic. Obviously, black magic at its term and its definition is also known as dark magic, has traditionally referred to the use of supernatural powers or magic for evil and selfish purposes. And
we're not getting, it's not that deep.
It's not that deep, but I'm just saying that's what the definition is. But obviously, this is the Anthony Black magic version, right? And the selfish part of it is that we all want him to use it for the magic. So he's going to do that. And I'm with it. Also, the magic, like the purple globe looking thing, it's got to be one of the sickest emojis out there.
I think it is.
It's pretty sick.
If we could get some kind of graphic or T-shirt next year of Anthony Black, like in like not Washington Wizard, but like magical wizard garb with like some kind of ball of like the black sorcery crystal ball or whatever, and some kind of awesome magical graphic stuff. My artists out here, just do what you will with that. But if we're, me, I want to lean into the magic and the wizard and all this kind of rabbit out of the hat kind of stuff. If somebody does that, I will lose my freaking mind and absolutely buy it next year, whether it's the magic or
by someone.
Maybe. What, do you know something that I don't know?
No, I'm just saying. I just know that people like to, take ideas and make them come to life. I wouldn't be shocked if we're getting tagged in something this week that they did it. But we just hope that then at Anthony Black never at any point leaves us to go to the Wizards with him when wearing wizard garb, which once again, screw the Wizards for doing that. Super dumb.
I'm just mad at what's his freaking name? David Stern for allowing that when you already have a team. It's like, hey, we're the Suns. Can we be like the Sun? Like you have the Suns over there. We're just like the Sun now. Like, can we do that? Like it's kind of the same thing.
I was going to say the Heat, but
yeah, it's stupid. Honestly, two fiery balls. David, like with the expansions in the 80s, David Stern was like, you know what? Screw these teams. You guys can just use whatever name you want. Whatever David Steele. Oh my! I said screw David Steele. I did not mean screw David Steele. I love David Steele.
Someone's clipping
screw
this.
David Stern. Somebody's gonna clip this now. David Steele's gonna see it. And my life is just gonna be over. I never meant to say that. I love David Steele. All right, this just really we're off on a tangent now. I know I said that was the last thing. This is actually the last thing before we talk about the draft. With the draft, the result of the draft, it's no secret that the Magic are still in need of a backup center. And someone that a lot of people were circling as a target in free agency for the Magic was Minnesota's Naz Reid. Now, Naz Reid signed today. I think it was a 3-year, $42 million deal with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So he's locked down now. So no longer an option. Broke my heart, honestly, because I was really hopeful, especially with the amount of money that we have going into free agency and not really having a lot of other like glaring needs or other positions that we're going to be chasing after. I was like, man, we've got a ton of money to maybe overpay a little bit for a guy like Naz Reid to try to lure him to Orlando. But Minnesota was like, nah, we're getting this done now. So I know you're big on Drew Eubanks, and I think a lot of that had to do with like the cost, and we were unsure of like how much we're really going to be able to spend in free agency. But if really the main thing that we're going into free agency, and it does seem this way, the main thing that we're targeting now is a backup center. I just feel like, one of these guys like Mason Plumlee or Thomas Bryant, those are guys I would just rather have over Drew Eubanks. I know that you're like, oh, it's Eubanks season, but I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like those other guys a little bit more than Eubanks.
That's fine. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be up in arms about a backup center selection
I
unless
don't
it's
know. You've been heavy on the Eubanks train for a
I
few
like
weeks.
it. Listen, let's be honest here, right? So we're in that episode and we're going down the list, and you've named a couple guys, and I was like, Drew Eubanks is not bad. I for whatever reason had watched some Drew Eubanks this past season and games and whatever. I might have had money somewhere with, I don't know, with Drew Eubanks, whether it was DraftKings or something. But I just think that at that point I was just kind of like, well, he's there. He averages a solid in 20 minutes a game. 5 rebounds over a block. 6.5 points. You're not going to ask him to score. He's a backup center. But then someone said it the other day, and I don't remember who it was. Was it something about Drew Eubanks? I don't remember why or whatever, but it's some correlation to the Magic where I was like, oh, yeah, exactly. I said that a few weeks ago. I don't mind that at all. It's just kind of a guy that I definitely wouldn't mind if we got him. Worst comes to worst, you get Drew Eubanks. I'll be able to sleep at night. He's a decent player and what you'd want at a backup center. And also can grow with the team. He's 25.
Yeah. I mean, Thomas Bryant, 25. Mason Plumlee, a little bit older, but hey,
like 30-something.
We didn't want to draft 2 rookies, or some people didn't want us to draft 2 rookies.
True.
But here we are. Team is even younger now. A guy like Plumlee could definitely come in and be, the veteran presence that this team, definitely can use a little bit more of. So, but here we are. What is it? Friday? Free agency starts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll probably have an answer to this question, hopefully, by next Monday. So, maybe we'll have a little free agency primer on Thursday's episode, talk about it a little bit more.
Yep.
But I really think, maybe they add another shooter, maybe like another wing. But backup center is absolutely like the biggest need heading into free agency. And the Magic are going to have, cap space, especially if maybe they move on from Gary Harris. Like they'll have a lot of cap space to go after a backup center. Not saying you should spend all of that on a backup center. That would be a little bit irresponsible. But like the Magic should not, the issue shouldn't be not being able to pay a guy enough to bring him here. Like if you go somewhere else, you prefer that situation or that market, whatever. But the Magic should not be getting outbid for any of these backup centers that we're talking about.
Did you see Windhorse? I think it was him talking on like a draft show of some sort, just talking about how the Magic, he had heard that they were going to be aggressive to improve quickly or quicker than the rate that we were going. And he said something to the effect of they were trying to do it through the draft and trade their picks or like one of their picks or yada yada. And clearly it didn't happen, is what he said. So it does make me think that for the first time in a while, we may not see the Magic just sit out free agency and just do little small things. It's actually going to be more, important things pivotal to the future of this franchise. So I'm really excited about that. I'm already excited about free agency typically just because, the NBA is the NBA. It's the greatest sport entertainment in the world. But when your team is involved and you think the Magic could do something, I'm not saying we're going to get a superstar, but it is going to be exciting. You're going to be adding guys that are going to play legitimate minutes and hopefully contribute for the next few years as a result.
Yeah, I just go back to Jeff Weltman's comments before the draft. One, about still evaluating their young players, like how they're still doing that. And then talking about like not skipping steps. Like both of those comments kind of contradict that report from Brian Windhorst. And the important thing to remember, folks, is just because someone is reporting something, one doesn't make it true, but just because it's not true doesn't mean they're lying. He very well could have heard that, doesn't make it accurate, right? Like when we talk about the front office not leaking things, that's what we're talking about. They're not going to leak their true intent before they're able to like leverage the situation to make that happen or to follow through on that intent. So who knows where Brian Windhorst is getting that from? I can almost guarantee you it's not coming directly from the Magic front office. No one's calling him like, "Hey, Windy, this is what we're saying. Go ahead and say it on the draft show." Like
Right.
nobody's doing that. So
It's
that's the
just
only
teams
thing I
that
would
were
go
probably
back
getting
to.
calls from Jeff, and clearly by the maybe the proposals or something that he was doing insinuates that based on the players he was asking for, he's wanting to get better quicker. And so I think that there's still some truth to it in that regard. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I know that Jeff said that before the draft, but what he thinks is going for it and skipping steps and whatever doesn't mean he's not saying we're gonna get turn some heads and free agency with like I said, not a superstar signing, but something that makes this team better and moves the needle for this team for a few years.
All right, let's hold that thought because it kind of feeds into my feelings about the draft and how it went for the Magic on Thursday night. So I want to give a quick shout out to the folks that help make this episode and every episode possible, our wonderful patrons. If you've never heard of Patreon, Patreon is basically a platform that allows creators to receive support from the people that consume their content, our listeners, our followers, our viewers on YouTube. So as little as $2 a month, for as little as $2 a month, you can help financially support the show. We also have other tiers. Goodness, I can't speak. We have other tiers where you can get things like exclusive Zoom calls with us each month. We have our elite tier where for $15 a month, you can also get discounts on regular season Orlando Magic tickets, game tickets. So if any of that interests you, you can find us at patreon.com/the Six Man Show. And every episode that we have new patrons, we give them a special shout out. So I want to shout out Nick Georgie, Levitt Perez, and Boris Dirk, who joined us before this episode here. And then each episode, we shout out all of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. Want to give a shout out to Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Magic Static, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, The Distract, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Francis, Warmth, Pierre A., Nostalgia and M&M's, Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Drum, Danimal, Dodo 15, Bobby Skinner, Goody 93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Juan Geraldo, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, Jose Esquilin, Destined for Greatness, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Ty Mr. TV, Joe Rothfuss, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95, Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Freakin' Shahin 177, Bulby the Don, Himlo, Ban Himro, RM Prov 221, Ray Pastrana, Magic Kid 714, Spank Too Hard, Soft Taco, Jesse, Johnny B, Fuego Nando, Victor Cologne, Fanawil 72, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Only Franz, Maria, Keith Wallace, Fritz, Nick G, and Currency Kev. Again, a big shout out to all of our patrons. You can find us at patreon.com/the Six Man Show. Going back to the draft, now that we've had a few days to just kind of, relax and come down off of everything and process things and think about things a little bit more. First of all, when we left you guys on the last episode, we weren't quite to the second round. So you probably already know this, but if you have not heard, the Magic traded their second round pick, the number 36 pick, to the Milwaukee Bucks for a future 2030 second round pick. And of course, cash considerations in return, reported by Kobe Price, formerly now of the Orlando Sentinel, and is now covering the Lakers. So, as suspected, we did not keep that pick, traded it, kicked it down the road. And just a few pretty interesting things happened after we finished recording. Cam Whitmore goes all the way to 20 to the Houston Rockets. So they end up with an Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore draft in the first round. Pretty crazy. Jazz had a great draft as well. Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, and Bryce Sensabaugh. Those were all guys that we talked about the Magic potentially taking, and they end up with a great draft, Luke. Really, anything else from like the NBA draft that surprised you before we talk more specifically about the Magic?
Man, I don't think so. I think that you hit on really the biggest highlights. Cam Whitmore, man, I'm really interested to see what he does and what he turns into because something went terribly wrong. Something was awful. And then it got to the point where they're like, the value is too good here to pass up in the 20s. Like, not at all what we suspected. That was the biggest thing for me and for probably a lot of people is how far he fell, being given that a week before he was being mocked as high as he was. So that was really my only takeaway.
I'm trying to pull up the Rockets' salaries right now. I don't know if they've already been signed to their rookie deals. It doesn't look like it. So I'm just really curious to know what the rookie scale difference is from like 4 or 5 to 20. Because Cam Whitmore lost millions of dollars per year by sliding that far in the draft. And by all accounts, he swears that he's healthy. He said there was nothing wrong with my medicals. If that is true, the rumors that the workouts were really bad and that the interviews were really bad, like, man, the slip all the way from, a couple weeks ago, mocked as high as 4 all the way down to 20. If that ends up being a steal and they were able to add Amen and Cam Whitmore in one draft, I mean, that's just an absolute home run. With the Jazz, obviously everyone is praising that draft because it was fantastic with Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, and Bryce Sensabaugh. Taylor Hendricks very much the safe pick. Keontae George and Bryce Sensabaugh were like the big swings. Either one of those pans out, then by all accounts, they had a just absolutely incredible draft. Okay, so back to the Magic. We've had 3 days to think about everything. Where are you now with the draft that the Magic had Thursday night?
I think for me, man, Anthony Black, we talked about it on last episode, right? That he's a talented player. He's really great. But he does put a lot of question marks over not himself, but other guards on the roster. We also talked about it a couple episodes ago where you had said there was reports that he was hesitant to even really give the Magic the time of day because of the guards that the Magic already have in place. And it just makes me think, like, what was the conversation? Like, if he was having that, hesitancy, what made that smooth over to the point where it wasn't like he was like, I'm not going to the Magic, right? Like, he's there. He seems happy by all accounts, videos and things that he's doing, whatever. Makes me wonder what the front office told him, if maybe it was relayed to them that, hey, here's what AB's concerns, and the front office told him kind of, here's our outlook, and maybe that's what they did. I don't know, but I do think that this draws a lot of questions for Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony specifically. Both of them up for extension. And I think that the 30th is kind of the day that they're able to make that decision, if I'm not incorrect on that. Very well could be. But they have decisions coming up regardless about those two guys. So I think that that's something to look out for. Maybe they extend one and not the other. That kind of, for the first time in this Magic front office history, it feels like they're going to be tipping their hand a little bit of, hey, this is the direction we're probably going. That would be interesting to see and see how that plays out. So that's really the story behind the story for me, is what I'm still thinking about with Anthony Black. I'm all aboard, to be quite honest, with Anthony Black, for the sake of clearly this front office saw things that they loved in the interviews and the workouts. They love his size, obviously, his defensive ability. He checks all the boxes. I think it doesn't look good for other Magic guards, but I think it looks great for Anthony Black, and really what my perspective is of him.
Back to the Rockets real quick. I was able to do some quick calculations. It looks like Cam Whitmore lost like $4 million a year.
That's crazy.
By sliding that far. Back to the Magic now. It is. I've definitely come around to the picks a bit more. And again, not that it ever had anything to do with Anthony Black, because it's not that like I didn't think he was a good player or anything like that. But when we looked at the roster and the most glaring needs were shooting and forward depth and a backup big. When you had options there like Jarris Walker, like Taylor Hendricks, that were at one point, mocked to the Magic in different mock drafts, it was like each of those guys can fill like one of those roles that is like a glaring hole in the rotation right now. Point guard was not a glaring hole in the rotation. Now, do you want to argue that upgrades can be made? Basically everywhere except Paolo and Franz at this point, given their age and contract situation and future projection, I would argue that basically anywhere else on the roster you could upgrade in one sense or another. Like those guys, like you move Franz unless it's Franz or Paolo, unless it's for like a multi-time all-star, like a top 10 guy, we're going to be sitting here like, yeah, this makes us better now, but like, what about the long-term vision? Like, we'd all be pretty upset if those guys were moved. My issue really kind of still with the pick, and not so much the issue with the pick, but like the questions that this pick creates is like, we had bigger holes that we could fill, and we're talking about, Windhorse saying the Magic want to move themselves forward more quickly. I feel like this is a decision that doesn't really speak to that opinion of the Magic. Like taking Anthony Black when you could have just drafted a backup big to play behind Wendell, which wouldn't have caused any questions, and you're immediately upgrading from Mo Wagner or Goga Batadze to a Jarris Walker or to a Taylor Hendricks there. The Jet Howard pick, like they liked him better than some of the other shooters we talked about, Grady Dick, Jordan Hawkins. Like I don't really have so many questions about that pick, especially now that they've come out and said, hey, we believe that he can be a lot more than what he showed at Michigan. That's really what they are betting on. Jet Howard is going to be better than Grady Dick or better than Jet Howard. Not Jet Howard, Jordan Hawkins, guys that they reportedly worked out all these guys, and they said, this is the best guy that fits a need that we have. And what he's able to do off the bounce and everything like that right now shows more than Grady Dick and Jordan Hawkins. And I talked about, Grady Dick being a better defender. Like if you just look at their seasons at Kansas and at Michigan last year, throughout the season, just Grady Dick was a better defender more consistently. However, I will say all that to say, it sounds like that's because Jet Howard was legitimately injured, and that affects your lateral, movement and your ability to stay in front of guys. So can Jet Howard be a better defender right now than Grady Dick? Grady Dick wasn't a fantastic defender. When I was just comparing the two of them, I was like, why does this make sense? And their post-draft availability points to the fact that they just believe that Jet Howard is going to be, better than those other guys that we thought about, they could draft at 11. But back to Anthony Black, it's like when you have these other holes that you could have filled, this instead of being an upgrade, because I don't know, is this guy going to be better than Cole Anthony or better than Markelle Fultz or better than Jalen Suggs from day one? I don't know that anybody can say that with any type of confidence right now. Maybe that's what they're thinking. I wish we could not summer league, not preseason. I wish we could have the regular season right now so we can see what they're really thinking. Summer league, you can't put too much stock into summer league. We know that. Preseason rotations and minutes are going to be all over the place. When the regular season starts, that's where we're really going to see what they think about all of these guys. So I feel like I'm still going to have these questions until A, someone is moved, someone is traded, or two, we get to the regular season and we can really see what the actual rotations are going to be. Because I understand the pick. Anthony Black is fantastic. He's going to be awesome. But I still just have these questions as what does it mean for the other guards? And unfortunately, a big part of this, let's all admit, we're emotionally attached to Markelle, to Jalen, and to Cole. And we didn't think we were going to be drafting a guard in this draft because we're like, hey, we've got these guys. They're good. Let's give them time to develop, time to grow. And now all of a sudden, the front office is like, well, actually, we might not be as invested in those guys as maybe you would have thought. I'm not saying that's true, but these are all of the questions that I have now.
Yeah. Ironically, the Jet Howard pick draws less questions than the Anthony Black pick, whereas Jet has far more question marks than Anthony Black, which is the interesting dynamic. And it does pull into that, right? That you talk about the emotional attachment Magic fans have to all of the guards that are currently on the roster. It's a little threatening to your emotional attachment for Anthony Black to come into the room. And it's kind of like, hey, what are you doing here? Why are you here around all of my favorite people? And one of you's got to go, at least. And I don't think it's you because you just were brought in here.
And I hate this because it feels like we're saying something bad about Anthony Black.
Right.
And I don't want that to be the vibe at all. Like, I want this to be like the best, most welcoming environment for him. But it's like we just have questions now. That's all it really is for me.
And apparently, it feels like Jeff and John have had the conversation on a championship team. Which of these guys can we see being on that roster and getting minutes? And from what they indicated to us on draft night, I think the answer is kind of the same as who's untouchable. Paolo and Franz. That's who we see on this team come championship time. Which is very interesting because I would have told you I think Markelle can be a point guard on a championship team. Because it's not like he's a superstar, but he is the guy that's going to impact winning and doesn't step on toes, stays in his lane. It makes everybody better. But clearly they think Anthony Black can be that and more. And that is why I am probably going to get over this maybe quicker than other people. Because I'm just sticking to my guns of I trust this front office. He must have really crushed every aspect of everything for them to think that as much as like we've all had indicators that this front office loves Markelle Fultz at least, Anthony Black can maybe surpass that.
Yeah, for me, I still am very much trusting the front office. Like, I'm not sitting here like, man, they screwed up this draft, which like the national media response to this has been that the Magic messed up the draft. And it's like, well, no, not necessarily. Like, this is just they thought this guy was the best player, and obviously they probably see him as part of what they want to do moving forward. So although it doesn't make sense right now, it's not about right now. Like, this is about growing this team into a contender to be successful and to be sustainably successful for years to come. We're not there yet. We didn't even make the play-in last year. So as much as we're talking about playoffs, yeah, that's awesome. You know what team was talking about playoffs a few years ago? The Chicago Bulls. And now they don't look like they have a real path forward. You don't want to end up in that situation. So do I get the confusion from the national media? Yeah, but like to grade this draft as like a C, I think a lot of it has to do with the I guess perceived reach for Jet Howard. But again, I'm trusting the front office in that pick. That first of all, the kid is a bucket. You go and watch his highlights. The offensive skill set is very obvious. Like the shooting, the shot making ability, the ability to create space and make shots off the bounce. Shows flashes as like a primary and secondary creator. Probably more so in like a second unit. I don't know that he's ever that in like a starting lineup. The defense for me is really the biggest question for Jet Howard. Like, the offense, I'm not worried about. If he comes out and is like a stud defensively, I'm going to be absolutely thrilled about the pick because for me, that's the biggest question about Jet Howard.
Yeah.
Now, when I bring up these questions, or when people bring up these questions on social media right now around the fit with our guards, to see people criticizing that and using the reasoning that, oh, well, we're talking about positionless basketball, positional versatility. Anthony Black can be a 3. Like, defensively, maybe, yeah. But do you really want Anthony Black right now playing off the ball? I don't think so. This is not apples to apples that I'm comparing right now. When we go back a few seasons ago and we were seeing, rare lineups, but lineups with DJ Augustine bringing the ball up, and either Markel Fultz or Michael Carter Williams just standing in the corner, and each possession the team is effectively each offensive possession playing 4-on-5 basketball because teams are just sagging off of Markel or they're sagging off of MCW or the lineups where we saw those guys play together. We kept screaming, "What are you doing?" Like, Steve Clifford, what are you doing? You are handicapping the offense by running these types of lineups out there. And can Anthony Black grow into, a respectable 3-point shooter? Maybe. Like, we've seen the videos. His form is improving. And I think it was like the first 12 games of the year at Arkansas, he shot like 38% from three. Now, you can talk about reasons why that kind of fell off. Was it just hot shooting at the beginning of the year? Did he have an injury? Who really knows? But as it stands right now, I don't have a ton of confidence that Anthony Black is going to be like a league average 3-point shooter this year.
Yeah.
So I do find that it's fair to be like, hey, I don't really see how all of this fits together. And the people that are coming out and saying like, oh, what do you mean it can't work with Markel, Jalen, Cole Anthony, and Anthony Black? Like, Anthony Black he's a wing. It's like, well, that's not really the role that he played at Arkansas. And while I do agree, like, defensively he can do that, and I think he's smart enough to play off ball and be a cutter, we're talking about the NBA, and every single season, as it pertains to the Magic, we always complain and fuss about how the Magic don't have enough shooting. And the Magic lose games every year. Not all of the games that they lose, but the Magic lose a lot of games every year because they don't have enough shooting, because they're being outmatched, because other teams, 3 is worth more than 2. And it doesn't matter if you're shooting a better percentage from 2. If the other team is respectable from 3 and you're not, a lot of times the math just doesn't add up. And basketball is a sport where you need to have more points at the end of the game than the other team or you lose. So people just acting like it's a non-issue and they don't have any questions really is confusing to me. Maybe I just don't know ball.
Maybe you don't know. Which is what some people suggested in the YouTube comments. That was hilarious. And there are sometimes, Jonathan, where I read comments and I'm like, I'm not even going to bother. But then there's some that are just like blatantly disrespectful and tell us that we don't know basketball, as if we don't do this all year. And maybe you don't know basketball, and we don't watch 82 games. It's crazy.
Open to the fact that I could be wrong. Like, if somebody can lay it out for me and explain it to me in a way that makes sense, I'll be like, sure. But every explanation that I've gotten so far, I'm like, yeah, okay, but what about this?
Right. And there's no answer for it,
I'm not
right?
seeing any resolution to that.
Yeah, and I know, like, the rebuttal basically from this person was, it's positionless basketball, but that doesn't matter. Like you said, it's a league where you need to have perimeter shooters. Positionless, that doesn't matter if, like, positionless doesn't, like, it still cares about if you can shoot. It is crazy to me.
Positionless basketball doesn't exist if you don't have positional versatility.
Yeah.
If you can say positionless basketball, if your point guard can't guard a 5, then I don't want to hear positionless. If not everybody on the floor can shoot or facilitate, then I don't want to hear positionless, because guess what that does? It puts guys into different positions.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking about traditional positions or if you just want to go creator, wing, off ball, like, a rim runner, whatever you want to, if you want to use 2K badges in your conversation with me, whatever. Positionless basketball doesn't mean anything if you don't have versatility across the board.
Yeah.
And if you don't have shooting at multiple positions and the guy that can't shoot doesn't have the ball in his hands, it hurts your offense. And if you have multiple guys on the floor, on the perimeter that can't shoot, like, right now I really don't see how Markel Fultz and Anthony Black could play next to Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero.
You don't see how them together on the court at the same time plays next to Paolo and Franz, as you're saying?
Right.
Yeah. No, I am obviously right there with you. And that is why that I think some people will be like, well, if you have these questions, you might not be trusting the front office. And it's like, because that's how it feels with some people when they talk to us about the Magic, or you see them talk. that, if you preach trust in the front office, why do you have so many questions? It's like, I can have questions. I have questions about things I love all the time and
I have
things that I
questions about
trust.
things that I deeply believe to my very core that I
Exactly.
still
So,
have questions on every day.
yeah, exactly. So it doesn't mean that we don't trust the front office. It just means that we think the front office is up to something. And not to say that's not going to be good and work out for us in the long run, but it just is crazy because we weren't even thinking about this a couple weeks ago. But it does make me happy and more content knowing this front office has been thinking about this for a very long time. I've said it before. I just imagine they have just like, yarn and pens everywhere on a big board of where they want to go and how they want to get there. And we have no idea what that board looks like. Clearly, draft night was another step towards another phase of this team, and it does make me excited because it's like, oh man, they made this choice for a decision or for a reason. That the decision was made to further this team, and it's going to break some hearts along the way, but it's going to be okay when Paolo Banchero and Anthony Black and Franz Wagner and maybe Jet Howard are going to be lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy. So that's when it'll all be forgiven, I'm sure, from everybody.
And Anthony Black, if you come across this, because I don't know, you're a rookie, you're new to Orlando, you probably want to get an idea of what fans are thinking about the pick. If you're watching this, we are ecstatic that you are here. Please do not confuse this for us not being happy that you're here. If you're an Arkansas fan, please, I've seen idiotic articles out there about how the Magic are not worthy of Anthony Black. If you're an Arkansas fan, first of all, ignore the 15 idiots that you see on the internet who act like morons. Ignore them. Overwhelmingly, people are ecstatic that Anthony Black is here. And we know that Anthony Black is a hooper and is a fantastic basketball player. And he's going to be a great player for the Orlando Magic, hopefully for a very long time. We just have questions about the way that this roster is going to look 3 months from now because I have my doubts that it's going to look the same way that it does now. And even Anthony Black probably has questions about how this roster is going to look. And I can tell you that because what he told Jake Fisher before the draft. The Magic didn't tell me this, but I would assume that they're going to move some guards if I'm the pick.
Yeah.
So if the kid himself, knowing how good he is, knowing his skill set, has questions about how this is all going to fit, you know what? I think I may know ball having questions about how all this is going to fit and how this is going to work together.
Yeah.
I would love nothing more than to be proved wrong. I would absolutely love that. It would be fantastic. I'm not doubting the front office. I just don't feel like the painting is finished on the 2023-2024 roster.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I don't know about you.
That's it. It turned into mainly Anthony Black talk, which is fine. That's why I said there's less questions about Jet Howard, which is ironic considering he has more question marks to his game. But the ankle thing makes it very difficult to really dive into Jet Howard because it's like we just have to kind of wait and see with this guy. Was that ankle really holding him up that much defensively based on the workouts and interviews he did? They think so. So we have no reason not to think so. They're the one. I think so often that as fans, we like to draw conclusions based on what we have seen, which is such a little small percentage of what has actually been shown to this front office. The scouts have been to way more games. The front office has had way more conversations with Jet. There's just a lot that we don't know. And I think that's why I think it's crazy that people are so absolute, talking such absolutes about guys like Jet Howard of how much of a reach it was. You have no idea. They could have been hearing that the teams right behind them were showing interest in Jet Howard, and there was things that everybody knew about Jet Howard, but they weren't saying it because they were hoping they could fly under the radar and get him.
He did a podcast with the Knuckleheads and said his best workouts were with OKC and Toronto, who were picking 1 spot behind Orlando and 3 spots behind Orlando. So if you trade back to 13 or to 15 for Jet Howard, guess what? Jet Howard very well could be gone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I just think that people don't know. And it's crazy that they talk like they do. Because they don't. And I think that's why I'm all right. I've already accepted Jet Howard as obviously an Orlando Magic and someone that is a great pick in that spot because of everything that we don't know. I don't think this front office makes whimsical decisions. And we all know that.
I was daydreaming today, like borderline fantasizing about Jet Howard knocking down threes next year in an Orlando Magic uniform.
It's been a while.
Right,
we've had a guy that can just.
The reason that
I'm
I'm good with like the Jet Howard pick and because one, we've been given it more information on kind of the thinking behind the Jet Howard pick, because it doesn't involve so many other players on the roster, with them coming out and saying, oh no, he was injured and we think he's going to be way better than what he was able to show. Like, okay, say no more. That's all I need to hear. If they came out and were like, oh no, Anthony Black had a wrist injury and that's why he shot 30%. Like we think he's a much better shooter than what he showed at Arkansas. I'm like, okay, makes sense here. We're good.
Yeah.
But the lack of shooting, I think, does tie more into the questions on how exactly is he going to fit. Because if he was like a knockdown shooter, like, okay, yeah, he can play next to Markelle, he can play next to Cole, he can play next to Jalen. Great. We've got our 4 guards. Like, we've got our backcourt. We're good to go. But because right now he's missing that piece, maybe they're convinced that he's going to be a above average 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then okay, then all of this makes more sense. But I don't have any information or any evidence telling me that that's what they're thinking. So that's really what I want to know is, what is the front office thinking?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I think I'm actually done.
Yep, me too.
Yep. All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you all for listening. This has been Luke Sylvia, Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the 6-Man Show. We will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the 6th Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at 6th Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!